it is only going to get worse. As inflation spiked, the American middle class was hard hit. Is the level of inequality necessary for the American dream? Let's witness the factors that plunging the backbone of America's workforce today. From the auto factories of Detroit to the steel mills of Cleveland and Pittsburgh, and from the defense industries of Los Angeles and San Diego, the middle class is shrinking. You know, in the post-World War II era, middle-income households with veterans could afford higher education and low-interest home loans, but that's not the case now. Well, according to a report by the Congressional Budget Office, households in the lowest and highest income groups saw their income grow faster than prices over the same period, but the middle class. So, that means the American dream is at an all-time low, especially among the middle class, according to the latest Gallup poll. The poll tracks Americans' assessments of the next generation's likelihood of surpassing their parents' living standards. Now, 59% of middle-income Americans, or those making between $40,000 and $100,000, are very or somewhat unlikely that today's young adults, says Gallup, and it's difficult for them to have a better life than their parents compared to only 48% of those with annual household incomes under $40,000 who feel that way. So, who exactly is this middle class? Well, the Social Security Administration defines it. Although there is no official government definition of the middle class, the three middle quintiles of the income distribution, $28,000 to $109,000 for married couples and $11,000 to $41,000 for single persons, are a commonly used definition. Plus, the Pew Research Center defines the middle class as those earning between two-thirds and twice the median American household income, which was $70,784 in 2021, says Census Bureau data. That means American households earning as little as $47,189 and up to $141,568 are technically included, although the median income is roughly $90,000. While it's often cited, the share of adults who live in middle-class households is shrinking. As of 2021, 50% of the population falls in this group, down from 61% 50 years earlier, according to Pew. Their share of the country's wealth is also getting smaller. The top rich 1% continue to amass more and more, reveals Oxfam. Even as prices rise significantly, consumer spending hasn't changed that much. Households are very slow to adjust their spending habits. So, to bridge their gap, Americans are dipping into their savings account and running up on credit card balances. That leaves them more financially vulnerable in the event of an economic shock. Now, economists forecasting a possible recession. Primerica warned that 62% of middle-income households need to get financially prepared. Unfortunately, I think it is only going to get worse. Ted Jenkins, CEO at Atlanta-based Oxygen Financial and a member of CNBC's Advisor Council, said of Americans' financial standing. Amid inflation, you really have to get disciplined, or you're going to outspend your income, Jenkins said. To curtail your spending, Jenkins said some simple financial hacks can help, such as less going to the grocery store and cutting back on online shopping. So, to tackle the situation, you need to start right from your cash cards. If you have currently credit card debt, tap a lower interest personal loan or a 0% balance transfer card and refrain from putting additional purchases on credit unless you can pay the balance in full at the end of the month and even get some money aside. Grocery stores are just like Las Vegas. They are there to separate you from your wallet. Meal planning is one way to edit down your shopping list to weekly essentials and save money. Disabling one-click ordering or deleting stored credit card information can also help. Anyone who shops on Amazon and has a stored credit card is basically pouring lighter fluid on their budget, Jenkins said. Jenkins asks us to wait 24 hours before making an online purchase and then using a price tracking browser extension such as Camel or Keepa to find the best price. Finally, tap a savings tool like Cently, which automatically applies a coupon code to your online order, and pay with a cashback card such as the Citi Double Cash Card, which will earn you 2%. As middle-income families prepare for a possible recession this year, it's more vital than ever that they take control of their personal finances by addressing debt, setting a budget, and keep spending in check. Primerica's CEO Glenn Williams said in a statement, "Experts often recommend starting with high-interest credit card debt. Credit card rates, in particular, are now more than 19% on average, an all-time record. Those annual percentage rates will keep climbing too, as the Federal Reserve continues raising its benchmark rate. Think about this middle-class America, which was rightly pointed out by the Washington Post concerning how many people see such a life and why they believe it's impossible to reach it. But what's happening now? By historical standards, middle-class wage growth was always high despite the economic challenges. It isn't keeping up with the increased cost of living, which in previous December was up 6.5% from the prior year, making it harder to live the same lifestyle previous middle-aged generations did. Nearly 3/4, or 72%, of middle-income families say their earnings are falling behind the cost of living, up from 68% a year ago, says a report by Primerica based on households with incomes between $30,000 and $100,000. A similar share, 74%, said that they're unable to save for their future, up from 66% a year ago. So, what did it take to be considered middle class? A recent journalist poll found widespread factors on it. Among them were a secure job, the ability to save money for the future, and being able to pay bills on time without concern. The Post's analysis of Federal Reserve data says 2/3 of Americans adults lack such financial security. The idea that you can have a secure job with predictable wages, healthcare, and retirement, and the ability to pay for your housing, those things are all part of a mid-century vision of the middle-class life trajectory, Caitlin Zaloom, an anthropology professor at New York University, said. So, retirement plan in this economy? The Pew Research Center says that in the past year that the share of adults who live in middle-class households declined to 50% from 61% in 1971. Meanwhile, incomes for the most upper-class households increased significantly. Here, retirement is increasingly a problem for the middle class, especially the lower middle class. According to New York City graduate institution Wealth for the Bottom, 90% of the households nearing retirement has fallen during the past 32 years. For the bottom 90%, the major source of wealth assistance is Social Security. The middle class originated in the early days of the nation. Middling people such as artisans, shopkeepers, mechanics, and small merchants formed an important part of Thomas Jefferson's Democratic Republican Party. Don't forget to remember some important caveats when addressing the golden age of the American middle class from the late 1940s to the 1970s. So, starting in the 1970s, incomes began to diverge, with the middle class increasingly left behind. And you should know, many people of color were left out and held back. Events such as the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921 involved the destruction of a prosperous African-American neighborhood called the Black Wall Street by white mobs. This middle-class black enclave was leveled, and its inhabitants were forced to start over. Many people of color couldn't use GI Bill benefits either. As a result, intergenerational wealth transfer, such as through a house, left many such families far behind. There are some new-gen causes of middle-class troubles, like middle-income jobs, were lost to technological advances. You know, more employment was killed by corporate mergers and industry consolidation. The demands of Wall Street and rising executive compensation took priority over the needs of employees and communities. Wages stagnated while household debt levels increased. And if AI really does wind up taking more white-collar jobs, white-collar workers may end up taking jobs from others. There's no one trick to fixing the economy or changing people's feelings about it. To a certain extent, if the economy is good, but everyone says it's terrible, then numbers don't really matter. The newfound insecurity felt by people who have previously been insulted from economic risk impacts the way the economy is covered. Media workers are often in those higher income, higher educated social circles and locations, and they reflect what they see to their audience. Hopefully, it will also impact the way everyone thinks about the nature of the economy in general, and there are policy choices we can fight for, but we just don't. There's a reason people are expressing that they are feeling precarious. A historic recovery is not good enough. There's a lot more to do to stabilize the middle class and the economy. So, what do you think? Is the rising middle class dilemma going to plumber the economy? Comment your suggestions to fix it, and do share the video with the people you care about. Until next time, stay tuned by hitting the like button and subscribing.